What's up everybody, this is Danny, and today I'm doing a interesting comparison, just a test basically, of how the iPhone SE 2020 does against the iPhone SE 2022. You can see that the HDR is still not so good on this, and that is still 1080p video from the front, so I don't see any major differences here. But I'm just gonna test these out to see if the A15 Bionic actually did anything for the iPhone SE. Let's do it. So let's start with the daytime pictures. Just like I expected, since the two phones have the same camera sensor, I didn't expect a huge difference. So if you're looking at these pictures and saying, I can't see a difference at all, I don't blame you, but I am seeing some differences from the processing changes from the A15 Bionic processor, which are nice. So let me show you those. If I had to generalize, the first thing that I noticed is that the images are slightly sharper all across the board. When you punch into the image, you can see the petals look a little sharper. It's not a huge difference, but it's there. With landscape or farther away shots, it's not as noticeable like this one, but in this picture, the new iPhone SE 2022 seems to keep sharper from edge to edge. Maybe you can't see it, but when you zoom into the picture, you can just see how much better it is with the A15. In all of the pictures that I looked at, I'm noticing subtle differences. Look at the bricks here on the ground. They're more pronounced and prominent. At first, I thought this was just extra sharpening all across the image, and some of it is, but look at this. It's just so much more detailed, and the textures are picked up much better on the newer SE. Same with this marble detail on the right side of this same image. I saw the difference right away. I can also see it on this very mischievous looking bunny. Cropping in, you can see the difference. So this might not be impressive to you, and I totally get this, but this is just software improving the image. There's no new camera sensor, so this goes to show you how powerful image processing actually is. It's really giving some new life to this old camera sensor. Even though it is slight, I even saw some improvements in dynamic range. Take a look at this window back here. More of the detail is preserved. This image here looks pretty much identical when you're looking at them side by side like this, but at a 500% scale crop. Look at the details picked up on this building. It is much sharper on the iPhone SE 2022. There is no zoom option on either of these phones, just a single camera, so I wanted to see if the maximum digital zoom also showed improvements, and it does. This one looks a little more like just sharpening, so I wanted to do another test. I took the main sensor shot just to show you how far away that I was for the max digital zoom test. Take a look at the roof and you can see the shingles so much better on the new SE, and the detail on this section is so much cleaner, so this confirms the processing improvements. The iPhone SE 2020 held up very well. I mean, look at this portrait mode shot. It looks fantastic on both. I am bummed that you still can't take portrait mode shots of objects. There still has to be a face detected first. The updated ISP on the A15 Bionic helped here with Between My Arms. The 2020 SE missed it. I did notice that the newer iPhone SE brightens the skin tones, so this could be a love it or hate it thing, depending on personal preference. This is a portrait mode shot, but it does happen without portrait mode too. Take a look at my sun skin here. It's brighter and the shadows are lifted. I know I showed you some slight dynamic range improvements before, but I noticed a bigger one with portrait mode. I know this is just software processing, but it's nice to see. It's subtle in some pictures like this one. Take a look at the blue sky popping back here. Same thing on this one, is just blown out on the older SE. The newer iPhone SE does a better job with color on the skin on this shot, and also more color in the background as well. You can see the water in the corner here. But this one is the one that really brings it home. The iPhone SE 2022 looks a lot like a flagship portrait mode shot, so you will see some improvements going with the newer iPhone SE. The front-facing camera, despite being the exact same sensor, also sees some processing differences with brighter skin tones, so some people might like this. I also think it does a better job with focusing as well, so you end up with getting sharper shots most of the time. This one you can really tell the difference. This one is really close, so let me know which one that you like more in the comment section below. Portrait mode with front-facing camera, I saw some improvements as well. The new iPhone SE was able to separate my drink, which is nice. But just like any other camera comparison, sometimes the older iPhone SE It does take the better picture. This flower is better controlled. Sometimes it does produce the brighter picture as well, and sometimes it does pick up more details. So it's not 100% of the time, so keep that in mind. But in almost 100 pictures that I took, I did notice an improvement. So this should give you some confidence if you're interested in the new iPhone SE 2022, and if you are a fan of photographic styles that was introduced with the iPhone 13 series, then you also gain that in the new iPhone SE as well. When it comes to 4K video, I don't see much of a difference. Both can shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second, and they both look really good in daylight, so let me know if you can see a difference. For a budget phone, I don't know if you can get better video than this, but I do wish they added cinematic mode to the new SE because it is capable, but I'm sure that they wanted to keep that exclusive to the more expensive phones. The one improvement that I did see is the stabilization. When I was walking slower, I didn't see much of a difference. But when I took that turn and started to pick up the speed, I did notice that the new SE was more stable. So not sure what they did with the software here, but during the day, the stabilization has been improved. So let's go ahead and move on to the low light, and let's just address the elephant in the room. There's still no night mode available in the stock camera app on the new iPhone SE. I can't lie, I was disappointed when I saw this. The processor is more than capable, so I hope they add this to the SE in the future, but I am seeing some minor improvements to night shots. It's just like the daytime, I am seeing a bump up in sharpness, so when you go to inspect, you can see that it's just more refined with more definition and contrast. There is a more noticeable shutter lag on the iPhone SE 2020, and you can see it in this shot where the newer SE did a much better job. A lot of the times the newer SE creates a slightly brighter image. When you punch in, you can see a slight improvement to sharpness and detail, but what is impressive is that it does all of that with better noise reduction. You can really see this when you jump into the lower left corner of this picture. The SE 2020 has a lot more noise in the image. This one might not be as drastic. They both make it look like a foggy night, which it totally wasn't. I could show you a lot more samples, but I pretty much saw the same results across the board. Look around this light source here, so much cleaner on the newer SE. For not having night mode, moderate low light images show a nice bump in nighttime performance. The tree looks sharper, and also the building itself is so much more detailed. It looks like a totally different camera to me, in my opinion. This entire video is almost the same with its results. It's one of those things that if you didn't have them side by side, you probably wouldn't notice it as much. But it's almost like if you just had a dirty smudged camera sensor and you wiped it off, everything is just clearer all around. If you do want night mode on the iPhone SE, you can get it through third-party apps like NeuralCam. While it's not as good as Apple's stock camera night mode on the iPhone 13 phones, I think this is a good way for you to get night mode. What's awesome about the A15 Bionic is the performance helps a lot, even when you hit the shutter at the same time. The A15 Bionic is a lot faster, so you'll see that it finishes quicker, but it does take a lot longer than what it would if Apple had it built into their stock camera app. So I'm hoping to see this with a software update in the future. So let me know, what do you think? Are you surprised by the improvements of the iPhone SE? I know that me punching in like this and analyzing this close might not be necessary, but look at how much sharper this person is on this shot. So I'm impressed that the software can make this much difference. I love doing videos like this because it makes you revisit older devices, and seeing this much improvement in a budget entry-level offering is really nice to see. I do wish there was a second sensor on the SE like an ultra wide, but we can always hope for next year. You will miss out on night portrait mode if you don't go with the iPhone 13 series, so this does look noisy, but there is a slight improvement all around. Just take a look at the background here. I did the same max digital zoom shot test at Disney Springs. This again validates the image improvements. And yes, there are times where the older iPhone takes better pictures like this one. The color blending is just weird on the new SE on this shot, where the SE 2020 preserved it. And the front-facing camera, while being so much better on noise, does smoothen out the skin more, which some people might not be a fan of, but there are limitations to the old 7-megapixel front-facing camera. But there's at least consistency all across the board when it comes to image processing. Slightly brighter with a cleaner overall image. There will more than likely be more software updates in the future too, and with the SE, you know that you'll get support for many years to come. I am happy to report that the improvements also make it over to the video side. It's also cleaner with less noise. This is 4K 30 frames per second that you're seeing here. So while I don't think that you should jump out and buy a new SE if you already have a 2020 iPhone SE, that's not the reason that I made this video. It was to show you that the A15 Bionic made a big enough difference where I can say that this is an upgrade on the camera side. If you want to see how well it competes with the iPhone 13 mini, make sure that you watch my last video. I will leave that link below so you can check it out. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and if it helped you out in any way, subscribe to the channel for a lot more camera comparisons like this, and I will see you in the next one. And here is the nighttime video on these two phones, and they're both still 1080p at 30 frames per second. But let me know which one that you think looks better. Is there a difference at all?